Number 10. Sabu's Flaming Turban. ECW is no stranger to playing with fire, but as anyone will tell you, fire is always unpredictable. Many years before the likes of The Undertaker getting burnt by his entrance, or Jeff Hardy's pyro exploding on him, Sabu nearly found himself unexpectedly ablaze during his entrance at ECW's Guilty as Charged pay-per-view in 1999. As the homicidal, suicidal, genocidal Sabu made his way to the ring during a surprise return from his previous neck injury, he set out to interfere in the main event between Taz and Shane Douglas. Sabu would have pyro set off behind him as he struck his iconic pose. However, the pyro would catch the back of his turban and light it on fire. Sabu could be seen quickly throwing the turban off and ran straight down to the ring as if nothing had happened. This could have been a lot worse, but it's something that Sabu was used to, as you'll find out later on in this list. Number 9. JT Smith's Faceplant. JT Smith is most noticeable for being part of the FBI, the full-blooded Italian stable in ECW. However, one other thing he is remembered for is this painful botch that occurred during an ECW show. JT Smith would throw his opponent to the outside of the ring and ready himself for an over-the-top rope dive. However, as he went to perform the move, his knee pads would get caught on the top rope, stopping his momentum and sending him crashing face first down onto the concrete floor below. Although swelling could be seen on JT's head, he would go on to finish the match soon after. As time passed, hardcore legend Mick Foley would even reference the brutality of this botched bump by referencing it in a promo on ECW's Hardcore TV in October of 1995, about the sick ECW environment and just how dangerous it could be in instances like this. Number 8. Tony Mamaluke vs the Guardrail. Speaking of the harsh ECW environment, not only were the concrete floors the norm, but exposed guardrails were also a common piece of the ECW arena. Many of the wrestlers in ECW would have some harsh encounters with the guardrails during their matches, but perhaps none more so than Tony Mamaluke. Mamaluke was also a part of the FBI stable, which proves that they don't seem to have much luck when it comes to outside aerial maneuvers. However, during Mamaluke's match against Mikey Whipwreck, he would go on to perform an impressive corkscrew springboard moonsault to the outside of the ring. However, he overshot the move and the back of his head smashed awkwardly into the steel guardrail. Even Mikey Whipwreck would break character and react to the botch. This is one of the ugliest botches in ECW history, and it's a miracle that Mamaluke wasn't seriously injured by the incident. Number 7. Sabu breaks his jaw. This isn't Sabu's first time on this list, and it won't be his last. Sabu was a part of some of ECW's most extreme moments throughout the company's history, and this night proved to be no different. At ECW's house party in 1998, two hardcore icons in Sabu and the Sandman would face off in what was known as the Stairway to Hell match. This was essentially a ladder match with barbed wire suspended above the ring. The person who retrieved the barbed wire could use it however they liked. These two gimmicks are two of the most dangerous in wrestling, and so it's no surprise that something would go wrong. This nasty botch would occur when Sabu went to perform his springboard dive to the outside, only for the Sandman to move, and Sabu come crashing down face first into the metal guardrail at ringside. This would break Sabu's jaw, and in true hardcore fashion, he would just tape his jaw back together and continue on with the match. Number 6. Taz breaks his neck. Taz is an ECW legend and his neck issues are well documented. The incident that caused all of this happened back in mid-1995 during an ECW Florida show, where Taz worked a tag team match under his cartoonish Tasmanian gimmick, teaming with Eddie Guerrero to take on Dean Malenko and Too Cold Scorpio. During the match, Scorpio would deliver a spike piledriver to Taz, who didn't have enough time to properly protect himself and landed directly onto his forehead. Taz immediately felt a sharp pain run through his neck and had to lay out on the ring apron, unable to finish the rest of the match. When he eventually got backstage, Tommy Dreamer assisted him in taking him to the hospital, where doctors were amazed that he was still able to walk into the emergency room unaided, and later confirmed that he had indeed broken his neck. Apparently, Taz never had the surgery to help with assisting the recovery of his neck, and eventually returned to ECW in December of 1995 under an entirely different gimmick, an unstoppable shoot fighter human suplex machine, Taz, long before the likes of Suplex City ever showed up. Taz was responsible for introducing the tap-out finish to professional wrestling in the USA, and at one point was undefeated for around 18 months. In hindsight, if this botch hadn't broken Taz's neck, he may not have gone on to have become the star that he did. Number 5. Sandman's crucifixion angle. ECW was often known for its provocative nature and controversial storylines, but one angle in particular may have gone too far. During Raven and Sandman's heated rivalry, Raven had taken Sandman's son away from him and brainwashed him into his flock. On this night, however, Raven thought what better way to teach him a lesson than to actually crucify the Sandman at the ringside area with a crown of barbed wire to top things off. The angle was shocking to see and was a case of ECW going a step too far in some people's eyes, so much so that Paul Heyman had to make Raven go out after the incident as himself and cut a shoot apology for offending anyone with the incident. One person who felt this had gone too far was the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle, who appeared on ECW television that night looking to sign with the promotion. However, after seeing such a shocking scene with Sandman's crucifixion, it drove Angle out of ECW and straight over to the WWE. Number 4. Sabu breaks his neck. Perhaps no one in ECW sacrificed their body for the promotion more so than Sabu. So much so that he actually broke his neck not once but twice whilst inside the ring. Sabu has had his fair share of gruesome injuries, but perhaps none worse than this. The first instance was during a match with Chris Benoit, where Benoit would suplex Sabu awkwardly, meaning that Sabu under-rotated and landed directly on top of his head. This would result in the match being called off, and Sabu suffering his first broken neck. Miraculously, Sabu would go on to recover and return to the ring, only to later suffer the same injury during his heated feud with Taz, when Taz back suplexed Sabu right through a table. Again, Sabu would recover from the incident and go on to compete for many more years, proving why they call him the homicidal, suicidal, genocidal maniac. Number 3. Cactus Jack Flaming Chair. The hardcore icon and one of the three faces of Foley, Cactus Jack, knew exactly how to take things to the extreme, but on this occasion, things went way too far. During an ECW show in October of 1995, the main event of the show would nearly become ECW's last, as Cactus Jack wrapped a chair in a flammable towel and lit it on fire, aiming to take down Terry Funk and Tommy Dreamer. However, as Cactus Jack went to swing the chair at one point, the towel would become loose, burning Terry Funk, who would fling it away. However, the towel would fly towards the crowd like a flamethrower. The flaming towel would land in the front row, with fans beginning to panic trying to put out the fire. Luckily, a fire extinguisher would eventually put out the flame, but not before delivering second-degree burns to an audience member. Footage of this incident has been erased from public record, so only the pictures shown are what are available today. But this incident nearly turned the loyal ECW fanbase against the company and could have ended a lot worse. Number 2. The Danbury Fall. A list as extreme as this wouldn't be complete without the original gangster New Jack making an appearance. During a match between Vic Grimes and New Jack at ECW's Living Dangerously 2000 pay-per-view, the pair would end up brawling throughout the crowd and make their way up to a scaffold at the back of the arena. As the pair fought to the top, the plan was for both to fall off. However, Vic Grimes began to get cold feet, leaving an annoyed New Jack to forcefully pull Grimes down to the concrete floor below with him, resulting in Grimes landing on New Jack's head. New Jack would mostly recover, but suffered from partial brain damage and loss of sight in one of his eyes as a result of the botched fall. Sometime after, the pair would face off again in XPW promotion in a scaffold match, where New Jack would get his revenge on Grimes by throwing him off the platform to the ring below. New Jack would later go on to admit that he was actually trying to kill Vic Grimes as revenge for the original incident. Number 1. The Barbed Wire Massacre. In a match that ended up being so extreme, Paul Heyman refused to host another one in ECW ever again. This was of course the Barbed Wire Massacre between Sabu and Terry Funk for the ECW World title at ECW's Born to be Wired pay-per-view in 1997. The ropes were removed and replaced with barbed wire, and the two hardcore legends held nothing back. Plenty of brutal spots featured throughout, including Sabu ripping open his bicep on the barbed wire, and just like before with his broken jaw, he simply taped his bicep up and continued the match. However, as the match neared its end, both men would become heavily entangled within the barbed wire, so much so that neither man could move, resulting in the referee having to count Funk's shoulders down and award Sabu the win as barbed wire had wrapped itself around Funk's throat. The pair would have to be cut out of the entangled barbed wire after the bout, with Sabu also receiving 100 stitches afterwards and leaving the fans in shock and awe.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more wrestling content.